Councillor Smith is also, yeah.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2, declarations of interest and request for dispensation. To declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or any other interest which members may have in the following agenda items and consider any dispensation requests. Do we have any such requests or declarations, members? No? Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 3, external reports. Receive reports on behalf of external bodies if present. Agenda item number 3A is North Yorkshire councillors. So if I can invite Councillor Swanwick, if you can report to the audience, that would be like to test everyone's mirror limits, Councillor Swanwick.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that didn't get for Christmas. Okay, is that all?
It's on.
Okay, thank you. I'm just beginning to feel a little bit lonely up here in this item under external reports. We have the police who come along and talk to us, but they seem to be ready to have a bit at all now. We had Anglo-American on a regular basis, we even had North Yorkshire Council officer at the last meeting, and then there's myself and Councillor Trumper, and Councillor Trumper of course is in his position next to you, so it's just me I'm afraid in this. So.
I do feel if there's anything Councillor Trumper wishes to report on, then we will
change
to his councillor role.
Okay. So I suppose the big issue now that everybody is intent upon in North Yorkshire Council is the budget for the next financial year, 26-27. I think, as usual, it looks rather difficult. I think the sort of headline numbers that the Treasurer is using are that if things turn out well, then we might be 13 million in deficit. If they turn out badly, then we might be 31 million in deficit. It's easy to remember that because it's the numbers reversed, but they are only estimates. But we won't actually know until the final settlement, which is not expected until a few days before Christmas. So everything that I say, you've got to attach a caveat that it might change on the 24th of December when the government announces what North Yorkshire Council is going to get for the forthcoming year. But there's quite a lot of new factors this time, which people may want to discuss. The government has announced a local growth fund to be implemented by mayors, and also the ability to charge a tourism levy on overnight stays for people in our tourist areas. I have said publicly that I cautiously welcome the tourism levy, but we've got to see where the money's going to go. I think we are all very keen that it's a level playing field between hotels and short-term lets, so that short-term lets also have to pay as well as hotels. It's much easier to work with a hotel. Another new tax is the what is called the mansion tax by the press. Technically called a high value council tax, and it's to be levied on homes that are worth more than 2 million. So that will be an extra tax that is collected locally, but it's actually going into the Exchequer, so it will actually be sent to Whitehall, but local councils will bear the cost of the collection and all the hassle that goes with it. And we've seen that over the premium for second homes, that a lot of people have been upset about it, and they've argued and contested it and so on. So it's not without some cost. The national living wage has gone up, which everybody might think, well, that's a great thing. It's gone up to £12.71 per hour. But of course that means that a local authority which is paying the national living wage to some considerable number of its employees will have to take that hit as well in terms of the cost. And probably the most interesting one in terms of the positives, if you like, is that the government has realised that SEND children, special educational needs and disability children, are in an ever-increasing spiral in terms of cost. Now, there has been over the last decade, as far as local authority funding is concerned, sorry, this gets a bit geeky, but a thing called the override, the statutory override, which is basically that although the local authority pays it out, the debt actually accrues to the government and doesn't go on to the balance sheet of the local authority. So what the government is saying that from 2027-28 they will take over the deficit that is accumulated, which I think is about 16 billion across the country, but it is increasing by 6 billion a year, so it's very substantial, and that's to do with the increase in the number of children who are needing special education. And they will take that on in the future. And I think all the pundits are saying, well, you know, they recognise that the system is broken, which is good, but the inevitable consequences, the government will not just continue to increase it and increase it and increase it without reviewing the whole eligibility questions and all the ways that the fund is currently being charged against local authorities. They will want to have some control over it. So there's quite a big agenda there, but clearly for those authorities like ours, which does have a fairly large high needs budget, that is going to be an issue. So what is being said is that the cumulative shortfall in the next financial year will be 21 million, and that can be brought down to 11.4 million if the council charges the maximum council tax at 4.99%, which is becoming the norm. And in fact, the number of local authorities who are actually being bailed out with the ability to charge much higher rates of council tax is increasing. And in terms of this question of the statutory override on SEND funding, if local authorities actually had to pay that money out that they've got sitting out just off their balance sheet, if they had to bring it back onto their balance sheet, approximately half of local authorities would instantly go bust. So there's a lot of quite tricky things going on in local government finance. And we are in a fairly strong position. I'll preempt the inevitable question that we all thought that amalgamating all the councils would mean that we were in clover. Well, actually, the 60 million that we've saved as a result of amalgamating all the councils is a lifesaver. And without that, we would be in that category of councils who are unfortunately not able to balance their books. So the big spenders, as usual, are children and young people, in particular looked after children, and health and adult social care. And the figures continue to go up in spite of attempts to sort of turn those budgets round. In the second quarter of this last financial year, this present financial year, both of those are increasing substantially. And that's obviously something that has to be addressed, because it's like sort of constantly filling up a bucket and it's emptying as fast as you fill it. So there has to be some reckoning of that. I'll add a couple of little bits that different people might find interesting in terms of the likely savings, because it's inevitable more savings will have to be made this year, and depending on the result in just late December when we get to the settlement, it's a question of how much in the way of savings. Some savings have been agreed. Scarborough Christmas lights, they are to go. Apparently Scarborough's about the only council left that has those Christmas lights paid for, and in future they won't. And this one I think is particularly has particularly upset my colleague Councillor Trumper, and that is that Christmas trees are to stop for selected town councils and parish councils, creating a saving of 14,000. So you might send Councillor Trumper and myself back in to fight the corner on the Christmas trees, but I think it's, as I'm trying to portray, it is a bigger issue. It's a much wider issue in terms of the financial situation that we're in. So I'm happy to take any questions on the budget. I'll just flip through a few more things. Are we all right for time, Chair? I presume it will be a fairly light agenda today for Christmas season.
It is.
Yeah. We had a full council meeting a couple of weeks ago. There were some contentious motions put forward. One was on home to school transport, which as you know has been a contentious issue right the way through. There was an attempt to reverse a decision to delay the review date, which had been put at 2026 for implementation for the new school year of September 2027, and bring it forward because there have been so many anomalies shown up and parents in some areas are so upset. That went to a vote and that motion was lost. There has been a decision for the leader to write to the Secretary of State for Education over the involvement of private equity companies taking children for looked after children for care and making large profits. And the figure that was quoted was 100 million a year profits going to private equity companies who are doing it as a commercial venture. And I think everybody on the council felt that was not acceptable. The problem is, of course, where do you get the services from? Because we don't have the services in-house. Often they're very specialist services, and children have to go quite a long distance to be looked after. And then finally there was a motion which did get support, I think, of everybody, which was to continue the dualling of the A64 from Scarborough to York. I think anybody who's travelled on that road, especially in the season, knows that it's a nightmare with all the vehicles and the queues and the slow-moving traffic, etc. Of course, there's only 2 stretches that are dual carriageway, and what happens is that at the beginning of the dual carriageway, all the traffic piles up and backs up, and you end up in a queue, and there's nothing there. It's just that the traffic can't get into dual carriageway fast enough, and vice versa. So those were the motions that went by. Subsequent to the council meeting, there were some councillors who decided to change parties, and that has had an outcome which has meant that the state of the parties on North Yorkshire Council are such that out of 90 councillors, 45 are Conservative and Independent, because there's an independent group that sit and vote with the Conservatives. So it's 45, so it's right on the halfway measure, but there's no majority. 14 Liberals and Liberal Democrats, 10 Labour, 8 Greens, and 3 Reform. So that is a bit of a shift, because Conservatives have a significant majority, or at least a healthy majority, shall we say, after the 2022 elections, and now there will be implications, probably not sort of significant ones in terms of changing of leaders or changing of the structure of the council or the composition of the executive, but there will be undoubtedly committee places being reorganised to be proportional to the number of parties that now exist. So that was council, full council, and the subsequent changes to the state of the party. There's been some work on, I think I have touched on this before, in relation to the fact that the local plan, which is going through a very lengthy process of determination, or at least preparation, and won't be out until 2029, I think it is, has opened up a call for sites, and that is sites that would become available for some form of development, and so far more than 1,800 sites have been brought forward. So the council decided they would get in on the act and bring forward their own sites so that development could potentially proceed on those. I don't think there's any big surprises in terms of Whitby. I've only got the Whitby Strenshaw one because I was consulting on that. Councillor Trump and they all have others from Whitby West. But in Whitby Strenshaw, there was the area on California Terrace, near the Beck there, Calibeck, which I think has been mooted before. What I thought is a new site off Green Lane, which is sort of adjacent to the existing car park behind the Green Lane. And we've also put in the extra care site, we're calling it that, because it's a site in front of the hospital that's currently sitting there derelict, that was supposed to, and I still will, have extra care housing for people who need support. It's a sort of innovative way of dealing with people who can't exist on their own, they need a warden somewhere in the system. And so that area there has been put into the pot, as it were. But I'm very keen that that doesn't just become auctioned on the open market, because it's obviously a very valuable site overlooking the harbour, and I'm sure it will bring in a large capital receipt to the council. And I've made my position clear on that, and I don't believe it's for negotiation, but it's for extra care, if extra care can come forward with a plan for it. And then also, Estelle School is also included in that list as sites, potentially. So there's maybe one or two surprises there, but probably not all of them. And that process is ongoing. Those are the council ones, but obviously there's a lot more others. If you remember, when I first introduced this, it must have been 6 months ago, I said I thought there were about 13 or 14 sites across Whitby area, including Russell and Brixford. But this is much wider than that. Obviously there's more private sites, and there's those 4 sites that might be of interest. Okay. Those of you who sit on the town beer board, and I'm not one of them, will know that the Highways Department is moving forward on the project which was always part of the town beer, which was the Harbourside public realm. It was subject to a consultation in 2023. As usual, not everybody was happy with it. Some people were. Some people were happy with bits of it and not others. I've been involved very recently. I was consulted by Highways before it went to the Town Deal Board. But in fact, very little progress has been made on that, with one exception, and that is that the sort of the most positively viewed part of that programme is the signalisation of the lights at Spittal Bridge, or Howardale Road, Larpool Lane, which has now, I think it opened yesterday evening today. I haven't driven past there since, but that was the plan. It was slightly delayed, but it is now finished, or nearly finished. They've got all the lights working, and hopefully for those people who live on the east side who come out onto the A171, it will no longer be such a nightmare turning right. And it will be a lot improved, I think, for kids who are going to the schools on the west side of the bridge and have to cross roads to get there, because there will be proper signalised crossings and I think there will be an all red point at which you can cross over two sides at the same time, etc. So hopefully that will be very positive. And if the council decides that it wants to reduce the speed limit on the bridge in line with the petition that was brought to the area committee by Councillor Mulherron, then no doubt that will be added into the scenario there. How are we doing on time, Chief?
Almost there, I think.
Is Councillor Trumper twitchy yet? Not yet. Okay, I'll just pick a couple of small items then. Esk Valley Railway between Whitby and Middlesbrough, in fact between Whitby and in some cases Newcastle, has or will on Sunday get an extra service added on. I have to declare an interest here as a director of Esk Valley Railway Development Company, the Community Rail Partnership. But there will be a new service, an early morning service at 7:24. So that means that there will in total be 6 services a day from Whitby: 7:24, 8:44, 12 midday, 4:02 in the afternoon, 7:43 in the evening, and 4 in the evening. The plan is to try and get 8 services a day, and then it becomes a bit more of a respectable line. And if we can reduce the journey time as well, then I think people might find it more attractive to use to get to work and college and get to the hospital. I have had correspondence about the communication by the council in terms of Revo Road and the green area there which is being proposed for development. This is not new news, I have to say, to those people who seem to think it is new news. There was an original plan by Scarborough Borough Council with the developer Lovell to form a joint partnership to develop council sites. The joint partnerships, the joint venture, so the idea was that the council put in the land, which it owns, and the developer raised the money to match it. And that way there was the possibility of building houses that could be a large number of, or a large proportion of, if not all, at a price that could be afforded by local people. And Revo Road is part of that, as is Sands End Road, which I know is of interest to certain people as well. And the other 2 sites are in Eastfield and Skipton. But that was approved by the executive, was this joint venture, finally in June 2025 this year, and it's with Lovell and the council. So just now, a plug for meetings coming up. The next area committee will be on the budget, and that will be, I think that will be online, maybe not, but it will be just on the budget. But the next sort of major meeting will be March the 2nd, and that will be in Whitby, I'm pleased to say, in Whitby Pavilion at 10 o'clock. I would encourage you all to come if you can. Yes, I know it's frustrating to ask questions and you don't get an immediate answer, etc. But we're having a battle to try and keep them alternating between Scarborough and Whitby. And so if nobody turns up and it's in Whitby, then it defeats our argument. Other people might be interested in the audit committee, which is taking place next Monday at 1:30 at County Board Mortality. And on that agenda are the Alpamari report finally surfacing and being discussed by a committee. It has been published a few months ago and the press got hold of it and it is in the public domain, but it's never actually been on the committee agenda, and I have managed to get that onto the agenda of the audit committee for this coming Monday. And on the same meeting will be a discussion of the auditors, the external auditors report and their position on the statement of financial accounts. And obviously one of the issues there has been Whitby Harbour and how the funds are allocated So those are highlights to come. I'm happy to take any questions, and I'm sure Phil will maybe help me out on the questions and maybe other things to talk about.
Thank you, Councillor Swan. As always, a very full report. Councillor Lehman.
A couple of points. The overnight levy, will that be earmarked for Whitby, or will that just go in the pot?
Councillor Lehman, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Difficult to hear.
Will the overnight levy raised in Whitby be ring fenced for Whitby, or will it go in the general pot down to Scarborough and Glasgow?
I'm afraid I've really no idea on that. I don't know how to answer that yet. The details were announced very hurriedly at the time of the budget, and it was the opportunity for mayors to take up the option of having a tourism tax. And our mayor, David Skate, Mayor for York and North Yorkshire, has signed up to it and said, yes, we will take that for North Yorkshire and York. But the details, I'm afraid, are pretty scant at the moment. So I don't know where it's spent, or in fact, how it's actually levied and which levy held, both of which are important for Whitby.
The Maritime Hub, before it's built, when they gave themselves planning permission to do it, the report said that it would need 80% occupancy just to break even. Now,
Was there a big question of the question you asked me last time? Because I haven't reported on the Maritime Hub in this session.
yes, I know. But this is to do with the budget. If there is going to be a loss on the Maritime Hub, will that go on to North York Council's budget, or will that be offloaded onto the harbour?
I think, to be fair, I'm going to interject, really, Councillor Lehman. We are asking questions on the report that was given. I appreciate you saying
it's budget related, but otherwise...
If Councillor Swan doesn't have that specific information, I think we need to wait.
I'm just posing the question, that's all.
I was asked the same question by you last time I appeared.
Not on budget now.
Well, it wasn't, you hung it on the budget peg, but in fact it was exactly the same question. Where does the losses? I'm not sure that there will be losses. I certainly hope there will be no losses. But I'm sure we can try and find out that hypothetical question.
Thank you, Councillor Swan. I'm just going to tap on the end of that. One would hope that if the tourism tax is coming in, that it is ring-fenced to towns, because if there's no benefit to the towns, what's the point? Councillor Allen.
Okay.
What's your hand up, Chris?
My question to the council's point is, you talk a lot about building on green space. You never tell us where we're going to create some more, so that the residents can have some green space. It's all going to be built on, but no green space. And you what's the thoughts about that?
Well, I'm not talking about building on green space. I mean, this is actually vacant land currently. The land that we're talking about, is it Revo Road and Sandsend Road? I mean, both of those areas have been earmarked for house building. I mean, there is green space in Whitby, as you know, opposite Revo Road is Planet Park, a very large area of green space. And you have to walk only a matter of minutes to get to green space at the periphery of the town. So I'm not entirely convinced by your argument that we're short of green space.
Isn't there supposed to be so many hectares per resident allocated to the residents that live in the town? In other words, are we have maybe a couple of playing fields there, a little bit of park on there? Aren't we allowed that, or is it all up to the houses?
I think that the statistics that you're referring to are that various sizes of park have to be within so many minutes walk for residents. I'm not sure that we don't meet those in Whitby. My understanding is that Whitby's ability to meet those requirements is not in any way undermined by these particular sites being used to build on. In most cases, I think they were built on in previous years, weren't they?
Thank you, Councillor Swan. Councillor Riddle,
North Yorkshire Council and I'm going to put 18.8 million.
Councillor Riddles, could I just ask you to use the...
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
I believe that North Yorkshire are now looking at putting £18.8 million back into the harbour. What effect will that have on the budget, or is that just going straight from the revenue account or from where?
Well, I think it would be nice to think that this was new money to spend, but of course it's not. It's money that is in one account that needs to be moved to another account. The consequence of that is that the general fund has to take money out of the general fund and put it into the harbour account, which is fine. That was what is required by the High Court judgment. Nobody's disputing that. There are two questions. One is, what is the sum that needs to be moved over? And I think we'll know better on that once we've heard from the external auditor reporting on Monday for the first time. The other is the funds are to be used for harbour purposes, and undoubtedly they will, but there's no clear decisions as to how they're going to be used immediately. So in effect, it's banking money for the future rather than spending it immediately.
So it won't have any effect on the budget then?
It will have a negative effect on the budget because the general fund will have to subsidise the harbour account.
Okay.
We don't know what the figure is yet until the auditors decide what the assessment of that is.
You mentioned overnight state tax there. That's the North Yorkshire Mayor, isn't it? None of that comes to North Yorkshire Council, isn't it?
Councillor Swanwick did reference that that was a decision made by the North Yorkshire Mayor.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that. How much money will the Town Council get from the second homes tax this year?
I think it's about 14 million. That's obviously it's still being collected this year, but the original estimate was around 10 million. And I think it's actually doing slightly better than anticipated, so I think the figure will be about 14 million. And the plan is to ring-fence that for housing use, and that will be allocated on the basis of need.
What allocated to Whitby?
If Whitby is...
So the amount of money collected in Whitby will be used in Whitby?
Well, I'm finding it a bit difficult to understand this conundrum. On the one hand, you don't want any houses built, you people, and on the other, you're wanting more money to spend on houses.
No.
Which is it?
I haven't said that at all. What you've said is that. I'm asking if it's going to be spent on housing, right, which is what you said, is it housing in Whitby or is it housing elsewhere?
Well,
that's what I'm asking.
I answered your question, and the question is that it will be based on need. But the actual allocations have not been
They
finalised.
haven't been decided yet, have they,
Yes.
Councillor Swanwick? I believe. Is it what percentage that comes? I may be wrong.
Well, no, we're getting a penny on it, right?
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Right. Just a quick one.
Oh, I see, yes, of course.
Yeah, it's just the... Sorry, I was clearing you down. Let me the precept.
Maybe
Throw it in
some
quite
problem.
quickly because this
Yeah,
is
just
turning
quick.
into a meeting of just Councillor Swanwick and Councillor. So I'm going to have one more question and then...
Two quick ones. Special needs, you said. Is that, are they...
Moving on to agenda item number 6, which is the Mayor's report. Civic engagements for November. I did attend 2 or 3 things. There was the lighting of the Christmas lights on Pannet Park Christmas tree, which was a really nice event, and the Friends of Pannet Park, and lovely to have a social meeting with them really and congratulate them on all the work they do for the town. The other big one in November was the Mayoral Champions Award, and I've got to say that I've had nothing but good reports coming back from that, and it seems to have been received exceptionally well throughout the town. And there will be more awards handed out. I've got a couple coming up this week, but I'm not going to mention anywhere where it is because it's a surprise for the people I'm going to. So, but that's really nice. It seems to have really meant a lot to a lot of people, and hopefully it will be something that continues long into the future. The other thing I attended was a memorial event at the Royal for Graham Buckles funeral services. That was the first one they've held, and that was a really lovely event and well received by everyone who wants just that little bit of time out to remember somebody that's so dear and that, you know, is lost to them. And I think I attended school and I went to one of the Senate meetings. That was really useful. I think that's about it that I've been to, isn't it? Or did I not report on Remembrance Sunday before? If I didn't, there was Remembrance Sunday, and that was a very well attended event. I just want to say, following on from that on the remembrance issue, there has been a few concerns raised after the Krampus run, because there were some members of the public who were standing on our memorial, and that's totally unacceptable. I have to say, equally, the Krampus run organisers were very distressed about it as much as us, but that will be followed through as well. So yeah, we continue on attending things for the public, which are really, really enjoyable. I'm looking forward to the carol service that's coming up. I'm going to one at St Hilda's Church on the 18th of this month, so members, if you want to go there at 3 o'clock, that would be nice. The school kids are having a Christmas carol service there. That would be really nice.
We have a collection for when you were in the Boxing Day.
Well, I would go in the Boxing Day collection, but I've done it 3 times before, but unfortunately, unless the weather prevents, I won't be in Whitby. However, one of these years I will be, and I'll be looking for people to join me in it, because it's minutes. Right, that's all I've got to report, so I'm going to move on to the agenda item 7, the clerk's report. As our clerk is unable to be with us, the local clerk this evening due to sort of like personal points, I'm going to hand over to Phil to read that.
Thank you, Chair. So, clerk's report. She's just highlighted suggested meeting dates for January 2026. Under the current arrangements, the first meeting should be 6th of January. However, it is not practical when the office is closed until the 5th of January. Additionally, the new town clerk is due to commence work on the 19th of January. Therefore, I would suggest that the full council meeting is held on Tuesday the 20th and incorporates the finance. Town improvement hardware elements, we can return to the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays, which will be the 3rd and 17th February 2026. Mental health champion training for Whitby. So on the 7th of January, I recently met with Bernadette McKnight, who is a mental health first aid instructor based in Whitby, and has recently been granted funding by NYC to run a mental health champion course. She started with an initial course and is that is successful, should hopefully receive more funding and in turn develop a mental health community in Whitby. The one-day course is accredited by MHFA England and gives delegates an overview of what mental health is, how to talk about it, how to signpost people, specifically wanting to recruit people who interact with people on a daily basis, shop workers, hairdressers, RLI, Coast Guard, etc. To qualify them to live, work in Whitby. After the course, they will be invited to meet quarterly to check in with each other to discuss any concerns they may have. The aim is to form a community where they can support each other as well as the wider area that's developing mental health on the High Street. With Whitby being a blueprint for the rest of the county, the Town Council can benefit from this. It can be offered a couple of places on the initial course, which is on Wednesday the 7th of January, 9 AM to 5 PM at Green Lane Centre. The last one is Krampus, the Mayor's already mentioned. It was brought to the attention of the Town Council and Dockend where climbing the wall going on to do the activities. This is potentially damaging to the slow work and is disrespectful to the spirit of remembrance. The stewardship needs to be examined by North Yorkshire Council with grant permission for the event. That's the clerk's report.
Can we have someone that receives the clerk's report? Councillor Abbott? Can you read that? Councillor Howard, second that. All in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. We move on to agenda item number 8, motions submitted by councillors. So, the motion, I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Lerner, who's proposed the motion that the council objects in the strongest terms to the proposal by North Yorkshire Council to dispose of the area of public open space adjacent to Barnard Road and Revo Road. So I'll leave it for you to, if you wish to speak.
But you say
Could you use the mic, please, Councillor Lerner?
I'm happy with the arguments being put by everybody here for the last hour. So I move we move to the vote.
And it was seconded, Councillor Riddle used.
Yeah, good vote.
I need you to say who seconded
Yes,
it.
second.
Thank you. So we go all in favour? And again, unanimous. Thank you, members. And there is a second motion there. Councillor Lehman, I appreciate I stole your thunder on that one, reading it out, so I'll hand over to you to read out the second motion.
Yeah, the council moves to revoke motion 46923, which resolved the council move for a preference list method of selecting committees. That motion was only raised to thwart a motion that was designed to limit the number of times any councillor could sit on the committee without having to move aside and let someone else in. The motion was actually not revised because it negated the original motion, but it was passed anyway. No one was really sure how it worked, and the second time it came to be used, it wasn't. We were told that because it wasn't being included in standing orders, it didn't count. So nobody wants it, nobody likes it, so we shall just go back to plan A.
So could I just ask for clarity for everyone, Councillor Lehman, if you just read out that motion so everybody is very clear.
The council revoked motions 469/23 of 7th of May 2024, which resolved council move to a preference list method of selecting committees and instead adopt the now model standing order 8A of voting on appointments, with votes taken by a show of hand in accordance with the method described in now model standing order 3S.
And the seconder,
Yeah.
Councillor Riddles, is seconding that motion. So we go to the vote. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. Moving on to agenda item number 9, this is the conflict between Town Council grievance procedure and the ACAS statutory grievance procedure. I'm minded to put to members that we move that this item is deferred, given that it is a sensitive situation at the moment, and I feel that without the local clerk sat by my side to give any advice, and the fact that we really do need further advice from human resources for that, don't we, really? I feel it would be beneficial for us to defer this to a later meeting.
Good.
You would second that, Councillor Abbott? Right, so I'm moving it, Councillor Abbott is seconding it. I'm mindful that you had your hand up, Councillor Lehman, so before I go to the vote, I will let you speak.
Thank you. I'll just say to the members, Localism Act 2011 S287. Please read that.
Thank you. So it's been moved that we defer this item to a future meeting. All in favour? Any against? One. So we will deal with this in a future meeting.